the way, Gift Ostalos is live right now on X, and I'm going to be connecting there. And I want you guys to come through so that we really get to listen to what's going on currently. Apparently, yes, last night, Welshman, he spent like literally the entire, I think, 2 hours online, and all he did was to complain that when they had, their rally in Igueru, there were no chairs. I mean, you're talking about a servant who wanted, he asked to roll a red carpet for him so that he can have a good time. We thought we were together, on the Camentro, but no, Welshman is an interesting character. All right, so before we get into the details and get to listen to what's going on currently, because I'm going to be connecting live, I want to say if it's your first time to come across this channel, please do yourself a favor, subscribe and make sure that you ring the bell so that every time I am live, you'll be notified immediately. And also to my regulars, whom I love and respect, shout out Fortune with Petronella, Owen, guys, good to see you all. I'm so glad. Do not forget to like the live, push algorithm, invite everyone to the conversation. It's a beautiful night, y'all. So I'm going to be reading this message sent out by Ibo Mandaza. The elders, I always consider Ibo Mandaza as one of the council of the elders in the country. He's doing incredible work. He's done quite a number of things. I remember immediately after elections, trying really to push the regime to come to the table and have a dialogue. Also, the petition that we went through in terms of sending it to SADC, so at least SADC can mediate between President Masrom Mnangagwa and Chamisa. We'll see what the next weeks are going to unravel for us. I'm going to read the tweet that he sends out. He said, I believe it's overdue that Chamisa comes clean on the narrative before, during, and after election 23. You owe the population, especially the 2 million plus who voted for you, a detailed explanation to dispel the rumors doing the rounds about your duplicitous conduct, restore confidence in your support base, and also inform Zimbabweans that you are no longer in contention. You owe us or an explanation. I guess that's the reason why he is requesting that Chamisa should say something, because I told you Welshman was online last night, and we're also going to be connecting right now live to hear from Gift Ostalos. So I get him really saying we are tired of speculations. Come out and say something. But I'm sure Chamisa will eventually going to speak. I think me and Chamisa are kind of sharing the same similarities. When there's a lot of chaos, I keep quiet. And then I'll wait and do the dust settles and I speak. Right, and I speak. And you know what happens when I speak? I'm going to bomb you with wisdom. So I think that's what's going on currently. But there was a response from Peter Mutasa who said, Mukwambo, this is our Zimbabwean problem. When he was active, people were blaming him even for sneezing. He pulls out to allow those with superior ideas, political prowess. They were stating in heaps of analysis. Then people blame him again. What must a man do to please everyone? And he said, no, Tesla, this doesn't respond to my appeal. Let him talk. And he respond. He said, give other people, talk about what? He spoke and indicated that he is taking time off. Isn't that enough? People say the problem is personality politics. So why can't those with better ideas rise and show everyone better and impactful politics? I think he must remain where he is. I agree with him. Give Chamisa, some time to focus, and he will come back. Of course, we all know that he's still like in the game. But I feel like, guys, the country says Chamisa is weak. But now we are waiting for those who have what it takes to lead. No one is making a move. Everyone is quiet. They all just say Chamisa, Chamisa, Chamisa. But I also know there's quite a number of guys who are doing a lot, in the background to make sure that at least we bring sanity in the country. Again, tomorrow morning, I'm going to be coming here. We're talking about the national shutdown that is coming up. And I also heard that apart from the national shutdown on the 16th, there are protests across the country from the 17th, 18th, and the 19th. I'm coming with all the details tomorrow morning. But for now, we want to listen to what Gift Ostalos is talking regarding the political party or the standing where Chamisa is currently. So guys, we're going to be connecting right now live to Gift Ostalos. He is live on X as we speak, so that we can all listen to what he is going to be talking about. So come through, guys, and I want to hear what you guys think in the comment section as we move forward. Zimbabwe, it's time for us to fix this country. There is no any other way around. I know some people within the camps of Zimbabwe, they're saying, no, but no one is saying anything. It's in your head. A lot is happening as we speak. Zimbabweans are fed up. You can see the corruption. I'm shocked that the judges who could not even answer questions when they were being asked questions, during their interview, can get brand new Range Rovers. In the midst of hospitals do not have drugs, roads are a mess as we speak. Some people are saying, no, but things are working. They're working in your house. They're not working for the rest of the people. Our people are suffering. Poverty has entwined our society. And I think it's time for us to rise up and say, this regime is not working for us. Unfortunately, Mr. Mnangagwa, the president, and his administration, they've brought nothing but a curse on the people of Zimbabwe, and that has to stop, whether the devil like it or not. Whether you are eating in your house, we said it has to stop. Our people are rising up and say it's time, and it is time, and the time is now. So let's connect it to Gift Ostalos, so you guys, we can work together through this interview. Please take a listen.
Honorable Mayor Ian Makoni and Honorable Ellen Chiredek in the election bureau, they drafted a document to how we are going to conduct our elections internally to produce members of parliament and councillors. There was so much debate. People didn't like how the MDCs in their various formations were conducting their internal processes. One is that people felt that it was exclusionary. People felt that the MDC's primary election process was limited in scope because a person could become MP by being elected by merely 50 people who were members of the party. Now, when we made consultations, and it's important because all these decisions were made in consultations with the people suggested that let's allow the community to participate in every constituency. Number two, let's make sure that there is a clear, watertight template of the election, and that has to define who has to qualify. So that was a key emphasis from our people across the country. And then we came up with what is called a community consensus candidate selection process. Not Berekamwana, I don't know where Berekamwana, I think it's Jonathan Moyo others who coined our process that way. If obviously to belittle and undermine the process. But with documents that way, watertight, that way, I remember that people slept a late at night trying to refine that document called the community candidate selection process. It spoke about us having a commission that is supposed to conduct the election, because the argument was that technical people in the party were rigging internal party elections of the MDCs in their various formations. There were prominent names that emerged from the technical teams that I will not mention now, obviously, because they were employees of the organization. But everywhere, people were mentioning certain names that so and so rigged elections here, that was a cry all over. So we want independent people to conduct our own process, which is why we then created a statutory body called the Citizens Independent Selection Panel, CISP. It was then fine-tuned with consultations across the country, talking to the church. I remember that in Bulawayo, with a lot of conversations about credible people in Bulawayo who would become part and parcel of that panel, whose mandate was to then go and conduct the process. That isolating the role of technical people, the role of politicians, well, these two were cited as problems. We don't want imposition of candidates, so let's have an independent panel composed of people who are non-political, but who are progressive, who support the party. So we went to ZCTU, wrote to Japhet Moyo, requested names. We went to the church, we went to the Students' Union and asked them, the civil society, those four progressive partners in the broader progressive family in Zimbabwe, to say, please help us and give us names of people. People were so content. We said to them, look, you have been brought here. There was the chair from U Zimbabwe, who was the chair of crisis at the time. Mahia became. We said to them, look, you now have a commission. Your commissioners, 10 of you. Elect amongst you who should be chair, not us. It's not us politicians. They then produced a chair who became Mahia, deputized by a female and so forth. We then gave them party documents, we gave them the list. The idea was that let's run away from a limited process of having people elected by few people. Let's have the entire community. And we said to avoid violence, intrusion, and chaos, let people have a consensus first. If you see there is no consensus, then let the people choose between the two dominant people. That is the reason why you ended up with that element that people want to refer as Berekamwana, which was so prevalent, particularly in other especially urban areas. But in the rural area, most people with the consensus, here we want Ningis Funubani, and that was it. There was no process in many constituencies. And in political parties, they measure success of a process through what is able to produce. There are people who might contest a system, but if you want to make a comparison of this process and the primary elections, you can go to the numbers of people, women who were abused in the MDC alliance. Go to and read the report that I think it's WIPSU, a women's organization, that perpetuate the nature of abuse that women suffered under the then chairperson of the MDC in the participation of the election. There were reports that were done in investigations they made and so forth. One, that was the issue. Number two, there was the issue of money exchanging hands. Number three, the issues of violence. People were arrested in the in fact in 2018. Before I went to the Youth Assembly, I was one of the commissioners who conducted primary elections of the MDC Alliance. So I know there is so many reports. I remember reading a report coming from Chikanga, Dangamvura, where Honorable Mtseame and Honorable Kore were contesting. And a number of processes were done almost 3-4 times, failing to produce a candidate, turning chaotic and so forth. We avoided this in 2023. The process was smooth. It produced people who were born and bred, because one of the key requirements was that you must be domiciled in the constituency. So we stopped this issue of having candidates who are not domiciled in a specific area. So we, for the first time, with people who were domiciled in the area. There's a lot of debate about the narrative that was then brought, so that I quickly go into the Tshabangu issue. So that is the success of our internal electoral system. I've doubt in my mind, and I would want anyone who can challenge scientifically, looking both quantitatively and qualitatively, the process of our selection of candidates. Remember that for the first time again, people in the MDC, some young people and the new faces, were not allowed to contest on the basis of the 5-year thing. But the citizens' consensus process produced people who traditionally would not have been allowed to contest in the MDC because of the issue of the 5 years. But now we're able to have community choosing people regardless about at what stage they participated in opposition politics. We can go all over the country, you see that there were many people who were new faces that participated and became the official candidates of the CCC, whom I know that if we had the MDC, they were not going to be allowed to participate. So we're able to become more inclusive in our processes. And then enter Sengezo Tshabangu. I think a history has been told about him being how he was his first meetings with Kubani Moyo and so forth, and how they ended up meeting with people in ZANU-PF. All this is in full glare of the public. I don't want to be there for going there. And then after that, after the election, it's important for citizens to note what necessitated the recourse. After the election, the following realities were brought to the spotlight of ZANU-PF. Number one, ZANU-PF didn't have 2/3 in parliament. It's important to understand that, because that is the base of the recourse. ZANU-PF didn't have 2/3 in parliament. What that meant is that ZANU could not be able to pass this bogus and constitutional process that they want to invoke about the so-called third term. That's one. And the Agenda 2030, number two. But more importantly, ZANU could not be able to proceed and pass things like the PVO bill and so forth. So ZANU didn't have 2/3 majority. That's fact number one. Number two, and it is the success story, because we want to measure whether the citizens' independent selection process was able to yield the results. That's one. Number two, whether the strategies that we used in the CCC were successful or not. But there's an attempt by people to say, because in the part there was nothing called strategic ambiguity. We have all the documents of the organization. You cannot equate what is being said in a rally into a binding legal position of the organization. So anyone who wants to judge the CCC, the presidents of Nelson Chamisa, must look at because a political party exists to go and win elections. So we want to measure if we are to evaluate whether or not we should carry on with President Chamisa as the leader or not. We are going to check that thing. One, we had more cities. Number two, we were able to frustrate ZANU's 2/3 in parliament. Number three, we were able to bring in more young people into parliament, and young females emerged as mayors in Masvingo, in Epworth, a young man in Victoria Falls, a progressive citizens in Bulawayo in the form of David Coulter, deputized by young revolutionary Mabuto, a doctor, a former minister of health, driving a program of action to govern the city of Kwekwe, Dr. Henry Mazorere, a progressive former business and a stalwart of the Democratic Party in the form of Ian Makoni, driving Harare, almost $1 billion city. We had progressive citizens running and governing in Bay Bridge and so forth. Number four, what makes ZANU-PF to be frustrated is that while it is ZANU had a quantitative majority in parliament, we had a qualitative majority. My brother, it was not going to be possible for those sexo-Jaranians and non-Jaranians in ZANU-PF to drive parliament because we had a qualitative majority. I mean,
Right.
just go and check the levels of debate by more than 30 or 40 quality deployees that the Triple had put in the form of Honorable Fadzai Mahere, Honorable Eric Gono, Honorable Mazimba Mutu, Honorable Kobani, Honorable Mtseame. The list is endless. Honorable Bajila, young female revolutionaries, so many of these dynamic young people were going to drive the agenda in parliament. And those who were with us in parliament can testify how much it was revolutionary being in that parliament, how we were able to steer a ship, as it were. But all this necessitated ZANU-PF to come up with an agenda to destroy the movement. Parallel to that, as I conclude, the people with their own agenda that they called the morning after, facilitated through Patrick Chinamasa and so forth. Many people in the party, and even now who follow these people who now claim to be in Triple C, many of these people were not part and parcel of that thing. It might be marriage of convenience now, but there were people with their morning after agenda, which was supposed to be spearheaded by Patrick Chinamasa, confirmed by two key players of ZANU-PF, George Charamba, writing that there are people who are going to deal with President Chamisa post the election, and then also that Chikovu guy also confirming what they wanted to do after the meeting that happened in some restaurants in Harare. So I want you to understand that there are people who had their own meetings to deal with their agenda in the party. But there were some citizens who might now no longer be with us, but who were not part and parcel of that agenda. So many of them were progressive, were meeting. When we went under assault, we met as a parliamentary caucus to attempt and deal with some of these issues that we're facing, how we would have resolved them. But things happened and we are where we are today. So I thought that is important for people to understand that historical narrative and where we're coming from. And obviously, I'll conclude later after the space is done about the way forward and what we're preparing and the direction that we basically want to take as the authentic alternative in this country. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you very much. Now you understand why, yesterday I made the decision, that I made, because, man, you spoke for almost an hour, and and it was, important that you bring, this conversation, to us, today. So, ladies and gentlemen, you know what? I'm not going to be asking any more questions. What I want to do is I want to leave everything to you guys. I want to open up, the floor. As I explained, we take, 3 people each in 10. I'll add my 3 people. And then my co-host will add, their, 3 people. And then we'll go on, like that, and we'll see where this sort of, takes us. Right. So, let me see how many. Okay. So I've added, 3 people. So you guys, if you can ask one question each, please. One question each. Today I'm not playing. Mugawene for net 3-4, I'm not going to accept that. So let us have a question. Will also give him the opportunity to only respond to 3 questions. And Honorable Ostalos, can I also ask you to be brief in the responses that you are going to give so that we get as many people, as possible. So I want to begin with Nkoma Lewis. Nkoma Lewis, can you come through?
Okay, and thank you very much, Uncle Jet. Thank you very much, Ostalos, for the conversation. My question really is how or who passed the decision to remove Father as the spokesperson and put Primrose?
Promise.
That's my
Promise is called.
Yes, promise.
Okay.
Who did that and why was it done?
Okay.
Especially at a time when we were all, we were in the middle of an election. That's my question.
Right. Okay, thank you very much. Nkoma Blessing, can you come through? Your question, please.
Thank you very much, Uncle Jet. Comrade Gift Ostalos. I always call you the Secretary General. I think I just wanted to understand that you were listening to yourself when you were speaking, because from what I understand now, it seems like you've confirmed what Welshman Ncube was saying yesterday in regards to dictatorial tendencies. Because from your submission, everything that you were talking about, it was relating to President Chamisa as an individual. There was completely an absence of an institution. And you spoke about President Chamisa going to see the chiefs, going to see the chiefs. They are not part of the party. They are not part of our structures. They are not part of anything in our political party.
The question, Nkoma Blessing.
Yeah, so so my question is, how do you then recount on those aspects that you have been saying now, isolating all the other people who were part of the discussions, even the process of making that decision to go to the structures and so on? How does it exclude him from the accusations that were being leveled against him by the team? And also,
right,
why did all the other individuals within the MPs and so on, whom were his colleagues, whom most of them, he selected them, why did they follow him?
Okay, Nkoma Blessing.
Right, and when we asked them to come out of parliament, so it tells a lot of story about.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that. I hope Honorable, you've got his question. Dr. Nyasha, please come through.
Inina Comrade Ostalos, I don't have any questions.
I
just want to ask Uncle Jelemy.
Ask a question.
The question is, what's the way forward? Because we've had all this Tshabangu that Comrade Ostalos, then we need what's the way forward? That's what I'm interested in.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to you, Honorable.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you, fellow citizens. I really appreciate, we appreciate citizens for coming to this important conversation. First, I want to respond to the question about Honorable Fadzaimayer. In fact, the first thing is that myself and Honorable Fadzaimayer were appointees, we're not elected, we were appointed. So what happens is that when you are appointed, it means what follows after, you can be redeployed or reassigned. That is the first thing, but it is immaterial to my answer. But it's important to understand that you are appointed and you can be reassigned and someone else can be appointed.
Yeah.
It's not something out of this world. Number two, and then I want to go to the core reasons why we were reassigned. And the matter of fact is that it's not only Fazai Mahere, the Honorable, was reassigned from Communications Department. It was myself and Honorable Fazai. I got a communication from the presidency, as was checked by Senator Timber, that we have been redeployed. And then I sought to have a conversation with Senator Timber to say, okay, you are saying that you are giving us a new responsibility. What are the issues?
As water.
The primary issue, which we
This is
all
water.
had a debate about,
I don't drink more.
was that we myself and Honorable Fazai Mahere became candidates in the 2023 election. And therefore, there were so many missing gaps in the communications department and so forth. We're having back and forth, particularly with the office that was headed by Honorable Timber about our communication and so forth. And leading to that decision to have us reassigned into other responsibilities and Promise Mkwana's taking over. We had a smooth transition and gave Promise Mkwana the responsibility to continue the communication work of the organization. There was nothing amiss. It was about priorities in the election. I was, for example, at the time when I received the communication, I was in Bulawayo. I was now busy with my campaign in Pelanda and one of us are now in Mount Pleasant. And Promise was not a candidate. And therefore, it was the collective wisdom of the presidency, as was stated by Timber, to make those strategic reassignments. Secondly, there is a question about from my. We don't have to go to the definitions of dictator and fascism and so forth. But I think that in Nkoma, you have missed a unique opportunity to understand the operations of the CCC, because in everything that I've said, you can locate in very few instances the role of President Chamisa. I'll give you an example. The president said its own. Remember, in communication, you cannot say why was Honorable Fazai and Ostalos going to more press conferences. They are detectors because we're only seeing Fazai. We were not going to see President Chamisa there because that's our remit. You would not see us in the treasury because that was Senator David Coulter, now his worship's remit. That was his sole responsibility. So, in all these things, you would not see the face of President Chamisa. That's one. So, him going to consult is an official constitutional duty of the office of the presidents to liaise with chiefs. You might not recognize the role of chiefs, is understandable, but we definitely recognize the traditional leadership as key players in our body politic, particularly in our politics in the countryside. So, and it was not only meeting chiefs, it was meeting chiefs, meeting students, meeting the church, meeting citizens. That's why you see that President Chamisa had 4 meetings in the day. So, for example, you first go to the house of the chief, or wherever you're meeting the chiefs. From there, you go to the meeting with the citizens who are internally within the organization, and then you go and meet with the community people, and then you conclude the meeting with maybe other stakeholders like the church, civil society, who would meet in different venues. I can send you pictures of these separate meetings just that were happening in just one day. But it was the mandate of the president. It is his duty to do that. It's like asking why President Chamisa, when he becomes president, will go and address UN and not Ostalos. It's the constitutional duty of the president to go to UN or SADC summit and so forth. But you ought to understand actually that most of us who had been in the democratic opposition were complaining about President Chamisa being too liberal. If you go, my brother, I can tell you, Nkoma, go to the grassroots right now. They will tell you that you guys, we told you about some people that you allowed to participate in the process. Because remember that there was a vetting process which was being done by the security. So basically that gave the party, almost the security department, to have power to vet people who were supposed to participate. So people were saying, no, there are some people that we're not supposed to allow. Because President Chamisa chairing the meetings that we're sitting on, doing all this and accepting the vetted list and so forth, you would realize that in the candidate selection process, there was no role of President Chamisa from the start to the end. There was no role, literally, there was no role, because I was confirmed by the Citizen National Assembly that met in Crystal Lodge behind Holiday Inn. That's where all of us were confirmed, the candidates, by the Citizen National Assembly, not by President Chamisa. You ought to understand that candidates were not, because there are some people that I know that would have been preferred, but were not there. President Chamisa could then only exercise power to appoint, and so forth. But all these things were debated in the Citizen National Assembly, ratified and endorsed by the city. There was no role of the president. People might say, I know he did this and so forth. Lastly, there was the issue about the chess and so forth. I mean, I don't think that, and I want to say, I don't think that, and I want to say this as I conclude these questions. Nothing under this world, my brother, justifies going into bed with the
Be
regime.
nice,
That's
be
number
kind.
one.
Okay,
No matter
be
how
sweet.
brilliant people can sound, nothing justifies
Oh,
the
April,
attack
how are you doing,
that
Mom?
was aided by
Be nice.
people to give away ZANU-PF seats that have been hard-won by the people.
Yeah.
You know, my brother, we used to spend time in these very Twitter spaces asking you citizens to donate $1. We spend time talking to local and international, external Zimbabweans to support our struggle. And these people, I'll give you an example of my candidature. The party didn't give me a cent to be an MP. I was allocated a diaspora group that was supporting my campaign. Go and ask all our MPs in the rural areas. They were allocated a diaspora group that was supporting their candidature, getting t-shirts, fuel, and so forth. Our campaign was funded by ordinary people. Why on earth, because of your contradictions and say disagreements with whoever in the organization, how does that justify going in bed with the regime and giving our seats in a silver platter to ZANU-PF? I don't collect, I don't have a recollection. I was trained by International Socialist Organization. I don't understand why. Right. In fact, my brother, as I conclude, we appealed to the party and the presidents that we are being too liberal. We are a new organization. Why can't we go with democratic centralism? We were actually against this idea of being too democratic in making decisions and appointing some people without a history in the organization. That is what was coming from the grassroots. Because I want to tell you, my brother, the people that benefited from some of the interventions by the so-called leaders were actually the people who then became in the forefront of attacking and undermining the same leaders. It's ironic, but that's what history does. Lastly, Nyash, I think we're going to speak on the way forward after we are done. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
So people need to know that he's going to speak on the way forward.
Thanks, Uncle. Honorable Ostalos, thank you very much for that submission. Thank you for coming through for us. So as I put on, I think the three speakers have added Tinashe, Ten, and Mazmai. Just so they'll go in that order. I just want you to touch as well just this quick question. We saw, obviously, Prof. Ncube was here last night and they had a meeting. We saw the guys that were paraded or that were there. You know, Jacob Mafume did mention that I need you to see the leaders that are there, you know, for the other function. So what I also wanted you to touch before the guys, after the guys ask their questions, is to say, so have we seen, do you know of that faction and do you know of their leadership, like the structure? Do you know if there are any more people that might join that faction as well, you know, from the Triple C that might be there, that may not have been there on that platform, but that are aligned to that faction? But I will let the guys ask their questions, then you can respond. So Tinashe, Ten, then Mazmai.
Thank you, Uncle Jared. Thank you, Nkoma Titus. Honorable Gift, Ostalos, thank you for coming through. My question is simple. Why was the intelligence disregarded? And let me qualify my question. And I know you know this because for a long time, a lot of people, just ordinary people, and also even people within the party spoke about bad apples who were conniving behind President Nelson Chamisa's back. And they said, you will see, there were even some people here on social media who were claimed to be divisive and were claimed to be trying to derail the movement when they spoke about Tendai BT, Welshman, Ncube, and all these other people who were being said they were going to release an agenda and do things that were going to, go against the wish of the people. Why was that intelligence disregarded? And we even saw that even ZANU PF itself.
Koma, you've qualified, enough. Can we move on, please?
All right. So, okay, cool.
So why was the intelligence ignored? Thanks for that. Then.
Commentators, Uncle Jed, thank you very much. Yeah, 3,800. Honorable Mudichibaba. Kuna Professor Welshman in him. He didn't believe everything that you were saying. All right.
Let's go to the next question, please.
All right.
So there are people who are live right now, almost like 4,000 people are live
for this space. Thank you, Titus, co-host.
Space.
Professor Ostalos, leadership par excellence.
Yeah.
You are such an asset to Zimbabwe. Uncle James, forgive me.
No, we want a question now, man. Come on, guys.
Yes. I'm coming with a question.
Please ask the question.
I'm so excited for a great new Zimbabwe led by Advocate Nelson Chamisa and you, Ostalos, as part of it. How does Advocate Nelson Chamisa manage to survive amongst vouchers, amongst people who hate him so much with a passion? How does he do it? How did he survive? Because the amount of hatred, the amount of strife from the people who were surrounding him is
astounding.
I don't even know how to explain it. How does he manage to do that?
Right. I think he got that. Thanks, Masmai. So, Honorable Ostalos, do you want to respond to those?
Thank you very much. I will try to quickly respond. There was a question about the position of what happened, I think recently, which was publicized in Harare. Look, the CCC and the NDC various factions are two distinct legal and political entities. Their differences were not only just legal, but their differences were also political. So there is no way you can marry these two into becoming one thing. That is the starting point. We might, as intellectuals or as public intellectuals, try to look at whether is it the best system and the best structure that the CCC has of the Citizen National Assembly, the Perus, and so forth. We might debate whether or not they are the best, right? But our debate whether they're not the best cannot have them being replaced by something else. You can't claim that the CCC is a national council. That is disingenuous, that is ahistoric, and that is a pure blue lie. The CCC does not have a creature called the National Council. That's one. Number two, I dealt effectively about the existence and the non-existence of this 2019 Congress. It is no longer there. It cannot give mandate to anyone. It was nullified. No one can resurrect it. You can't build nothing on top of nothing. It's not possible. People can start their own organization or benefit ZANU handing them over the CCC, but cannot pretend that their mandate is coming from Gweru. I have great respect for Prof. Ncube, and he knows in one of my key rallies that I held in Bulawayo, I invited Professor Ncube because I wanted him to be the guest speaker in my rally that we held in Kulmani, because I was taught to respect my leaders. I was taught to respect our elders in society. That's why in all our disagreements, I've never attempted to go and undermine their personalities. But these are people that we grew up under their mentorship in alternative politics and democratic opposition in this country. They've taken a different pathway. They have their reasons and they've put them out there. But what we cannot do is to justify certain actions using ahistorical facts. to say that, and also I've been one of the people who don't believe in labeling of people. They've taken their pathway. That pathway aids ZANU-PF, and don't miss me there. The pathway that has been taken aids the regime. It aids the regime. But people can decide to label them, but we don't officially label people, ZANU-PF and so forth. But actions that were taken by Sengizo Tshabangu and everyone who benefited from it aids the regime in Harare. And there is no, you cannot sugarcoat that it aids ZANU-PF. It fosters de facto one party state which has been Mnangagwa's agenda since he destroyed ZAPU post-independence.
I wish they know what they're doing. They don't
One
even have a
cannot
clue of what they're
argue
doing
to go.
anyway, so.
They can argue to go anywhere, but you cannot recreate the structures of the CCC and say the National Council is there. And then the question on the intelligence. Look, intelligence came to the organization just like we got intel about Monzora. But what part of the task of the leadership is that you must always keep the movement together. We've lost so much in the name of unity. We have lost so many things in the name of unity. Because when you go out there, people say, no, remain united, don't destroy. And it is on that basis why some of these things, at times, they are not disregarded, but they are undermined by people who see the bigger picture that we want a new Zimbabwe. Why should we fight amongst ourselves? Let's unite. Let's not fight. But in the name of unity, we've had all these challenges for the past 20 years of naked contact with repression and fighting against ZANU. Lastly, there was a question about Chamisa, President Chamisa's challenge. In fact, someone said, Chibaba, look, I think Chibaba must always be the people. Chibaba are the citizens. I've always argued that our struggle must remain as a collective effort of revolutionaries and Democrats to transform the concrete lives of ordinary people. We must never miss the core agenda of our struggle. It is about uplifting the oppressed, not because you see the danger when we uplift individuals, when we uplift leaders. It requires, and I've argued with people, the privilege we get being leaders must come with so much honor and humility. We must not abuse this responsibility that we're given by the people, because unlike people in ZANU, our mandate comes genuinely from the people who have genuine grievances on the ground. So I must not abandon our struggle. If I have a personal grievance, I must not settle it in a way that undermines the collective struggle. I must know that I'm now called an honorable, not because I'm a genius, not because I was the best in Pelanda Bachavalala. I must understand when I go to parliament that this privilege of me sitting in parliament, getting coupons, getting a car from parliament, getting to travel, must come with greatest humility. Because unlike those in ZANU who get into position on the basis that they are either children of war veterans or they are wearing a scarf or they are and so forth, we are getting this public responsibility on the basis of the genuine concrete grievances of the ordinary people. So we can't be wishy-washy about our responsibility, because at the slightest of provocation, we want to undermine the struggle. So I've always questioned our comrades, and I question myself in the same manner. President Chamisa came into the democratic opposition as a young political crusader. He was carrying a huge base of supporters, and I remember at some point when you asked him about how do you circumvent all these trinkets and trappings, we just been given a brief report about what was offered to him in 2018 through one of our members for him to support ZANU-PF, and he refused to say, what are these principles that keep you there? During our mentorship session that he had with young people, with about a group of about 40 or so young people that were being mentored by President Chamisa. And we asked him these key questions. They said, look, for me, honor is important than all this drinking. I'd rather die with my honor than to be known to have gone into bed with the regime. Because his view was that but the man has suffered betrayal. The man has suffered. And I've always argued with people, no leader under this sun is a perfect leader. That's why we have a collective leadership. That's why we're building a credible alternative. But he has suffered so much. I mean, we meet people who have had the slightest difference with him, but the way it is, he gets labeled is this. I think that's one of the people that, but he has to pay the VA. He's got the mandate from the people. It's a difficult task. I wouldn't know how he survived. In fact, when you get to know, you wouldn't wish to be closer to where he is because of these challenges. But it's a struggle. It's full of betrayers.
Yeah.
He's not the first to be betrayed.
Right.
They did that to all the leaders that came before him. But it's a struggle. It's a lot
Right.
of continuity.
Thank you very much. Can I have Bashona, Terai, and Dobbs to come through in that order, please?
So Vashona is a staunch
Yeah, thanks,
supporter for
thanks,
ZANU-PF.
Mkoma.
Sorry.
Linjani Siziwa.
Zapiela.
My question is, according to Mayor Kotat, he said he never received any kobo from anyone. So I'm wondering, when you are saying that he's a treasurer or he was the treasurer, what was he looking after? And when are you going to take responsibility as a group or as an opposition from your mistakes than blaming us from ZANU-PF, because I'm a ZANU-PF member? When are you going to take the responsibility of your mistakes that you are continuing having since 2005? Thank you very much.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next one.
Good evening. I hope I'm audible enough. Thank you so much, Ango Jed, and thank you so much, my brother Ostalos, as I always call you. It's always good to listen to you speak. I've got a question to you, my brother. As I was listening to you when you were speaking, you said the Triple C, because I think it is important for us to have these honest conversations for the benefit of us, the people, to make decisions going forward. So you said that when these issues are happening, the Triple C had a governing document which created the Berus. So my question is, when was that governing document created, and where was it adopted, and why was it not produced in the courts of law at a time when it was needed? Because I remember when the first case of Tshabangu came, there was a case that was not presented with documents. Then maybe another quick one, because I still have 1 minute. You said, okay, my question would be, how is it possible that you were advocating for democratic centralism, yet at the same time you were celebrating that with new faces because the eligibility criteria of 5 years had been eliminated? Is that not contradictory in your own end?
Right.
Then lastly, I also say,
No.
okay. It's a second. 2 questions. Okay, it's a second. This one will be the last one.
Come on.
Okay, so my last question to you, my brother, is that, you know, as far as I remember, your appointment to become the deputy spokesperson came in September 2021. And the Supreme Court judgment that you referred to had come in March 2020. So are you also admitting that your appointment was an illegal thing that happened? Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Dobbs?
Yeah, many thanks, everybody. My question is around Tshabangu, because we are having conflicting statements. Some say he was a member of CCC. Some are referring as a member of MDC Alliance, so we don't even understand how does he come to become that is the so-called Secretary General. Then the second one, which really surprised us, why don't you collaborate with other political parties, like, for example, ZAPU? Because those people, when we are at a grassroots level, they assist us, supporters of CCC. Obvious. CCC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Over to you, Honorable.
Thank you very much. I think there was asking about Senator Coulter's position. I'm not so sure where that position is coming from. There are reports in the party. What is supposed to be made public? I mean, it's remit of now the mayor of Kota to deal with those issues about financing and stuff like that. There were reports that came to the party. I don't have them offhand in terms of what was happening there. I don't know where he got it, where he's saying he said never received a sentence and so forth. As for missing material, someone is responsible for the treasury. And that is what it is. And it's known, it's public knowledge. If you go and read our communique from Citizen National Assembly, it puts the people, the Perus, and the names actually of the people that attended the Perus and the reports that we received in the different Citizen National Assemblies that said most of the time in Harare. I would have wanted to help my brother, but I don't want to go to the charge sheet of ZANU-PF because he wants to, I don't know why my brother would do want to take the conversation about who is responsible for the attack of the opposition in this country. It has not begun with Triple C. The ZANU, it's not about us being responsible. The Mnangagwa regime has done despicable things in this country, starting in 1987. In fact, it started back in the Liberation War, but we don't have time to go there. We can't go to the debate about the assassination of Epe Chitepo. We can't go back to the thousands that were killed in Kukrawundi. We can't go back, my brother, to the Willowgate scandal. My brother, I can't take you to the disappearance of US $15 billion on diamond revenue. I can't go to the recent reports from the NP about 1.2 billion that is being siphoned on illicit financial outflow of gold in this country. My brother, I can't take you to the death of our member in Glenview. I can't take you to the assassination and death of Kauzani, to the death of opposition activists since 1999, including the death of Dr. President Richard Mokenzwangrai. We can't belabor about the sticking hands of blood that ZANU-PF has in this country. It's a deeper emotional conversation that we must have separately as a people about ZANU's destruction of the cycle of our country, the use of fear in the countryside, the assassination of those who differ with ZANU-PF, the bastardization of our body politic in this country. We can't go back to the words of General Chiwenga saying opposition must be crushed as cockroaches.
And the people want him to be the president.
To
he doesn't
the
qualify.
Conversation about the recent killing of Bishop Masaya, the abduction of pastors, the abduction of opposition activists. We can't go there. We cannot belabor listeners about the crimes of ZANU-PF in this particular moment, but they might not honor up to the, but it's the mess that a Chamisa government will have to inherit and decisively deal with these issues that are part and parcel of our past. My commander obey, like I say, brother Glad, we continuously refer ourselves to our yesterday deployments. Obey is my commander. He raises issue around the issue about the documents. Look, there are so many court processes that happened. The documents of the party were submitted particularly on the summons matter, because it is only the summons matter that needed particular these documents, because it dealt with whether Sengezo Tshabangu was the legitimate Secretary General of the party or not. The other cases that had come before did not deal with the issue of merit of Sengezo Tshabangu as the occupant of the office. It dealt with whether or not the party had recalled its MPs, which was the debate. It was the party versus parliament. It was not the party versus Tshabangu. We were arguing that Mutenda could not take a letter from a street kid and make it of legal effect to an institution like parliament, which survives on taxpayers' money, is undermining democracy and so forth. So that is the reason why we went there, Commander. Then the question on democratic centralism. I was saying my personal opinion is not an institutional position. My personal opinion was that we would have shifted, because I come from the left, but most of the people came from the center left. So those of us, a few of us who came from the left, were saying we must go with democratic centralism. It was just a proposition. It was not adopted. It was not a party position. It was just me saying a solution would have been democratic centralism, naturally because of my disposition as a leftist. The appointment, of course, that appointment of myself in the MDC Alliance and everyone else and those elected was nullified by Patel. It's no brainer. It is correct that all those appointed We might have differed politically with the decision of the Supreme Court, but it is what then becomes the legal status of the MDC Alliance. All of us, including President Chamisa. That's why I was saying you, Comrade Obey, who could have sat in that meeting and say, I'm now the chair, because none of them would claim legitimately to say they have a mandate to chair that meeting because it was declared a nullity.
Good to see
We no
everyone.
longer had an organization at the time. The last question was about Tshabangu. I think I missed. The network was a bit glitchy. I'm not so sure whether it was on the status of Tshabangu or his connection. I missed that part.
Right. Okay. You see, this is the danger of asking, so many questions. Right. Okay. Mofutadas, if you can announce the next three people and then they'll ask questions before I load, the next three.
Yeah, that's fine. All right. So Smarters, we go to Estella. Then we go to the person that I've added. I think I drop her. Let me add one more. So Smarters, if you go ahead, then we go to Sister Estella. Then we go to Jess.
Thank you, Uncle Gerard. Thank you, Brother Titus. Honorable Gift Ostalos, thank you for coming through. The question that I have for you, my brother and leader, is what was Nelson Chamisa's position after the sham election with regards to the honorable members of parliament who had won the election and also the councillors? I'm not looking for the party's position, Nelson Chamisa's position. And maybe if you could just comment on that. And this is coming, the question is informed by another insinuation that was made to say Nelson Chamisa is a dictator. So maybe if you could please understand it. Also, if you could also tie it down with the press conference that you issued out. I think it was a day after the preliminary report from SADC. Thank you.
Thanks, Matters. Estella?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Uncle Jed. Thank you, my brother Titus. And thank you, Honorable Ostalos, for presenting yourself to be held accountable by the people. You stated that as an opposition, you get your mandate from the people. The people are the Chibaba and the Chimama. My question is more oriented towards the way forward. And as one of the people, I would like to proffer a mandate for the alternative, for the opposition, a mandate for you personally, Honorable. Your party did a good thing, putting the citizens at the center of politics. But I feel like the missing element that would have completed this puzzle would have been citizen agency, that you wanted to empower the people to control the processes, national processes, electoral processes. But it looks like the people were lacking, in my opinion, knowledge and understanding of their role as citizens in enforcing their will. It looks like the people were waiting on you, the opposition, to enforce their will, of which I believe that's not really the way it works. You get the mandate from, sorry, okay, let me make my question. So you, Honorable Ostalos, can you tell us, the people on this space right now, looking forward, what are you going to do to correct this gaping error, this great lack of knowledge and understanding that the people have, which is essential in completing the strategy that you set out, placing them at the center of politics, but then they are not empowered and willing to take that role and actually control and direct the politics. What are you individually going to do to ensure that your if I would call it your party, maybe you don't have a party right now, but the opposition.
Sister, can you wind up, my sister?
Yeah, just go
Yes,
straight
thank
to the
you,
question.
Uncle Jed. So what are you personally going to do to ensure that going forward your party addresses this gaping,
Right.
error? Thank you, thank you.
Okay. I think he's heard that question. I hope Gift has heard that. So just
Hi, ina unangoyothi ndingoti fambai comrade Ostalos. Fambai.
All right.
Ndawuzoyinoma listener ngawafambe chayizi. Fambai comrade Ostalos, fambai.
Okay, so I think for just one more question, I think I've just added NKJJM. Please, can you just quickly shoot your question? NKJJM.
Let him respond to those. I think there are more than 3 questions that have been asked. So yeah, let him respond to those.
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Thank you very much. The first question came from Tintin, my brother Tintin. Thank you very much for participating in this space. And also, when we speak in these platforms, you ought to understand that it's a two-way process, a feedback loop. We get to hear what the people think, and we get guided. So we also get this key element of community wisdom from the people who remain at the center of the struggle we are prosecuting. Thank you, Tintin. President Chamisa's personal position, obviously, can only be authoritatively confirmed, I think, by his office, in terms of his personal or his office's view. But I know that organizationally, we came from the election, went to the people, and then we had a meeting. This is the National Assembly to debate and discuss. I've spoken to it publicly about different views. All of us, I raised my views about what I thought must happen. And there are so many lessons from that conversation, because the people who are sitting in the Citizen National Assembly, I think it's a fault line. One of the greatest things about leadership is to also honor to mistakes. I think that, but again, the problem is that I dangle between my mandate to speak and my personal opinions. Personally, and here I'm not speaking on behalf of the organization, I think that the fault lines, which is a lesson if you look at structures like that of the ANC, there are certain office bearers that don't have to go into public offices. Because the people who are sitting in the Citizen National Assembly, majority of those are the people who were in parliament and in council. So at times it dilutes or undermines the discourses or decision making, because, for example, I'm a member of the Citizen National Assembly and I'm an MP, and I'm discussing the fate of members of parliament. So I'm most likely to be biased, and this is what happened. I'm most likely to be biased towards what protects me as a member of parliament than the collective agenda of the organization. And every human being has that percentage of error. So I think that it played along when we're debating about the position whether or not people should stick to parliament. I wouldn't name, because in some platforms I've named people who were very blatant in support of what was proposed by citizens, because already people were clear in terms of what must happen. And President Chamisa echoed the sentiments in the meeting that, look, from what I'm hearing from ordinary people is that we must not participate in this charade. We must not endorse this charade by going into parliament and so forth. And he was not echoing more his personal opinion. I remember he underlined in black and white, but what seems to be picking from ordinary people is that we must not go to local authorities and we must not go to parliament. And the purpose of a Citizen National Assembly is to debate these issues, and no one can criminalize anyone who raised different views. And I think that even President Chamisa never criminalized anyone, because everyone, including him, were debating. Remember that in the Citizen National Assembly, if you want to see that the process is democratic, we no longer had in the traditional form of the MDC where some leaders sit in the front there. President Chamisa sits in the crowd. If you check the pictures that were publicizing, he was sitting with us next to any other. I think some of the meetings will be sitting next to different leaders who was from the different bureaus and clusters across the country, right? And people have undermined, sorry to divert a bit, people have undermined the role of clusters. Look at a very successful rural campaign through this cluster system that we had in Mukwaso. I think it was one of the success stories of the alternative we produced. We now had an MP from Zimba, an MP from Seke, an MP from Cholocho, an MP from, Matopo and so forth. We managed to penetrate the countryside, which was a success. So that's it, Koma Tintin. Estella, I think that I'm going to answer more on, I have the last part where I'm going to present about the way forward, which I call building a credible alternative. So I hope my sister, I'll be able to just postpone and answer that, around what must happen. But you had put a question around the problem, and I'm going to articulate what I think has been the problem in our party politics, in our respectful view, and how we intend to solve that is an alternative. So I was just a compliment, and thank you, my sister. We know we fear nothing, so we're in touch as ordinary people. So at no number to find, but everybody appreciate.
When was that coined? We are in charge. What did you guys coin that?
It's the language of the oppressed. Our philosophical understanding is that the ordinary people must be in charge, and we must not be scared. ZANU-PF have invested for more than 30 years to pacify our people and make them afraid. And we made it known to the corridors of power in ZANU that some of us are very clear. We are not afraid. I mean, they will put threats and so forth, but we are clear. The ordinary people are in charge, and we fear Fogo. Lastly, there was I think it was also more of a compliment, which I'm going to touch more on political education, but I'll touch it on building the credible alternative as my last part. Thank you very much.
So I've got Honorable Sheki Masi and Dr. Eni Mutingwende. Right. So
Sheki is
let us go with that order, but before
another big job,
I've got a question that has come via my WhatsApp. It says, officially speaking, the meeting of the National Council was on 22nd January 2022, and the announcement of CC was on 26. I think they meant to say 24 January 2022. So the question is, did Chamisa tour the country in those few days, as you alluded to there, Honorable? So if you can respond, to that as well. We'll ask Honorable Sheki to come through, Masi and the doc. So Honorable Sheki, please take the mic.
Let's hear what ZANU-PF is going to say.
Thank you so much, Uncle Gerald and Titus, for hosting a space. And good evening to my brother, Honorable Ostalos. Kudos to you, and thank you so much for coming through to articulate certain issues that pertain to our politics within the country, both the ZANU-PF and also touching on the opposition. But maybe I'll come from a perspective that might be unpopular. I understand it's important to understand the main role of the opposition is involving holding us as the ruling party to be accountable on issues to do with the state. And but in his analysis, as you're submitting, my brother, you keep referring and attributing the collapse of the opposition in this regard to ZANU-PF. In as much as that is important, but I think the major important issue or the major important question that I would want to ask you as a person I know, you are very intelligent, your future is very bright, is how is it equally, how are you guys coming up? Because I believe there are so many missteps that we can see as people who are outside of the opposition party that also played a very critical role to the state that you are in as much as you say us as NPF are responsible for that. But what solutions are there within you guys? Because I believe we also deserve a very strong opposition party that is respectively representing the Zimbabweans, the counterbalance. If you check at the election result, last election, there were more than 2 million people that voted for the opposition. And there were also more than 2 million plus people that voted for us as ZANU-PF.
Please,
That
man.
can show you the fine line of the people that are different in ideology with us as ZANU-PF.
Did
So us
ZANU-PF
as
get more than
ZANU-PF,
2
we might
million
be
people? That's the
representing
first
the
question.
people that made us to win election, but we should not be forgetting that there are more than 2 million people who don't believe in the policies of ZANU-PF, who don't believe in the way we do things as ZANU-PF. Those people should be catered for in the body politicking, and those people are
What's your
represented
question?
by you as the opposition. And right now, as we look at it, the way you guys are fragmented, the levels of mistrust can even tell that we are going to have a long run of having a strong opposition. Because right now, you know, Ostalos, there are so many people accusing each other. There are so many people pointing fingers at each
Ask
other.
the question.
What's your plan, you guys, to come up with a very strong, powerful opposition that can also keep us in check as the ruling party? For that is very important for the democracy of all Zimbabweans. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Doc, can you come through?
That's a stupid question.
Thank you, Uncle Jed and Titus. I hope I'm audible enough.
Yes, you are. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Comrade Ostalos, for coming to share your side of the story. My first question comes from what the professor said yesterday. He happened to have said that he had engaged with Sengezo and he had actually gotten to a point of writing a letter agreeing. Hello, Uncle Jet?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. So he said they had actually engaged the Sengezo to write a letter to the speaker to give back the powers, the communication powers to the acting president. Only that the speaker said they were waiting. He wanted a court order to honor that particular letter. And also linking that to what Sengezo has been saying, he came on the open when he was doing his interviews that of all these decisions that he's been making, he did them with all these leaders. Now we do see as a cluster or as another entity of the CCC. What is your take on that? What do you draw on that? Could that suggest that probably from the beginning, the professor and his crew have been working with Sengezo? Right. And then the last question, just which all these issues were ironed from the beginning or from the onset of the CCC formation, that everyone actually understood the way forward towards the by-elections and also moving forward as a party.
Right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Marty, come through.
Hey, Uncle Jet, thanks. My question is moving on. Which route from the SADC protocol of contesting disputed elections are you taking? A clear pathway for citizens to know so that we are able to identify as things are being done. Should I repeat?
Right. Thank you very much.
No, you don't have to.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want a clear, specific route that you are taking that is consistent with the SADC protocol for contesting disputed elections. Which route are you taking?
Right. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Right. Over to you, Honorable Ostalos.
Thank you very much, my brother and fellow citizens, for the interventions. I think that the first question, I think, came from, or Uncle Get, someone wrote to you. Thank you, someone who wrote to ask a question is important. We answer all questions unfiltered. We have nothing to hide. I think that I spoke, I'm not so sure whether they've been participating or not. We spoke clearly and attempted to be more emphatic about the National Council. It was a legal nullity. So we cannot use it as a point of reference to pass anything binding. There are people who might attempt to resurrect that carcass to advance their own interests now. But the legal reality and the facts about the National Council, its fate was decided for by the highest court in the land. We can differ with the decision from the court, but it had no binding position. And the mistake is not that if the meeting, and I said it was not a meeting, I've agreed with my brother Obey that you could have checked that meeting. Because in fact, I would have said, Commander, torai chiunhu nindoendamira paside totoudza vanhu direction because hachisina muridzi kachini chiya my brother. So taifanira kuchimhanya tototaura takufamba takadai todzingirawo namunzora vaya tozvimwe zvataida, because President Chamisa had no local standard to chair that meeting outside our moral respect of him and those that were there. So it could not pass any binding positions. Secondly, it did not discuss about CCC, as I stated before. And lastly, the tours happened way before, but are the ones that led to the formation of the CCC, like I narrated. Sheki, my brother, I didn't know you speak on behalf of ZANU-PF. If so that we congratulate you and treat you as such. Because our understanding of ZANU-PF is number one. I think that let's not be, you are studying law now, my brother. You ought to know and understand that at law, ZANU-PF is not the legitimate political organization, because what they teach you in constitutional law at the University of Zimbabwe, they teach you about a social contract, that the history of the law, the Roman Dutch law, also teaches students about that, about how the law comes into being. It starts as a social contract and written, and eventually goes into being a written document. And it teaches us, and it's important for you as emerging lawyers in the country to have that understanding, so that when you wear that head, you don't become problematic to the academy. Because they teach you about how governments are formed and what is the role of the law. If we are to go with that perspective, ZANU is not the government in this country. It is in effective control, just like Smith was. But it is not legally constituted. There are so many bases of going according to that. We look at the haste process by the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. We look at the observer report by SADC, which we are party to, the European Union, and so forth. So all that, my brother, to you as an emerging and young lawyer, teaches you about the questions that Zimbabwe faces in terms of the legitimacy and the legal standing and the constituting of the government of Mr. Mnangagwa. I'm not so sure, again, my brother, if you have assumed the information office of ZANU-PF, because you say that in ZANU, you want an opposition. I don't think that is the position of ZANU. It's a fault line on the basis that, the ZANU-PF, as we know it, doesn't need an opposition. It is clear in its operations and so forth. And if you have also assumed the role to communicate on behalf of JOG, then Zimbabweans would know that there's a shift in the disposition of these decisive power blocks in ZANU-PF and the Zimbabwe's history of transitions. And lastly, my brother, Dr. M, talked about Prof. Tshabangu. Look, I wouldn't want to speak on behalf of the two. I've got a specific mandate to speak on behalf of the oppressed people of our country. And I love the responsibility, and I want to continue sticking to that because I associate with the genuine aspirations of ordinary people. In terms of my personal comment, I think there's so much, of course, it remains an evergreen subject, but I think that Zimbabweans have given their comments and analysis around the relationship between the two. I think that they've done sufficient. Zim Daily has also been at the center of giving commentary and analysis, social analysis about the two. So I wouldn't want to speak on their behalf. The burden of speaking on behalf of the people is sufficient to me. Mercy, I think I'll respond on, it's a very key point about SADC. I think that, the procedure of SADC is very clear. We ought to have our Zimbabwean conversation in Troika,
from your mouth into
being born
your
out
mouth
of the
to
report
ears
of the
God, so
commission
shall it be in
itself.
Jesus' name.
But I think
Amen.
that we have to,
Thank
I think that we have to exhaust many political, but I'm going to speak about them in my closing, about how we think we must intervene in the Zimbabwean politics, particularly about the problem, because we have to sufficiently define the problem so that we have a solution. So I'm going to also quickly summarize that in my closing remarks. Thank you very much, Sister Mercy, and thank you, my brother and fellow citizens.
Awesome. Thank you, Honorable Gift Ostalos, for that. Just to check with you on time, are we okay to go to the top of the hour?
Okay.
Of course, we can proceed, my brother.
Perfect.
If the citizens still have questions, but I suspect that we have attempted to cover. But if there are some key questions, we can then have them and then
Appreciate.
Summarize. Maybe let me, before new questions come, I would want to question, because I say that Shaki is now in Parliament, albeit through a very questionable process, as it were. Very ironic. But I want to caution that that stance differs from the position of ZANU-PF as it is known, and there's a danger. ZANU, in Ndebele we say, nxa isifuna ukudla amazinyane iyawathinja. So there's a danger in that pathway, as ZANU, as we know and understand it. Because once you take that attempt to have clarity and independence of thought, it's difficult to last there, because you might want to think that the ZANU that you see in the rallies is the ZANU that has been blocking transition in this country. Those are two different institutions, and you don't want to go the route of us democratic revolutionary. But anyway, so choice. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next question.
All right, thank you. So I guess that's a word from one brother to another brother. But no, thanks for that. So we'll go to the next speakers. I've got Tandazani, Max, and Clint. Please, let's go in that order.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Uncle Jet, and greetings to Honorable Ostalos. Now, I'll be very, very straightforward as I can. So, Comrade Ostalos, the professor himself yesterday, I was listening very, very clearly. He said the president of CCC, the then president of CCC, closed down the accounts that were known by everybody, and they lacked accountability. And he alluded much more on saying President Chamisa was more of a dictator, and he made some of his comrades to sit down in Gweru. But that's not my question. My question to you is, were the account closed actually, and was there any form of a transparency within the CCC that you know of as the national spokesperson? Because this is very important to the people of Zimbabwe. That was a very big allegation to pivot against a president of a political formation, to say he closed down all the known banking accounts of the party and opened some that was new and unknown to everybody, according to the professor yesterday. And I believe that Ukufunda Kupeli, and we need to listen with him, was that happened. And lastly, is Nelson Chamisa really a dictator? And according to the professor, we are making a very, very big mistake by allowing, by supporting him, literally. So is he, sorry, I'm concluding, is he actually a dictator, or it's just a political a smear campaign that is being thrown around by the professor himself? Thank you so much for your time.
Right, thank you, my brother Tandazani. Were the accounts closed? Was there transparent within that? And is Nelson Chamisa a dictator? We go to Max.
Thank you very much, my brother Titus. Thank you very much, my brother Gift Ostalos. My question to you is, we all know that the president resigned, and I'm surprised that we haven't seen any resignation coming from our guys in Parliament. What is really going on? Who are they serving there? And why is that some have resigned, but some are still there? Who is there? Who is with us? I think people really need to know, is it about personal choices, or it's a collective decision? Because at the end of the day, people think that we might end up, fighting our own brothers there in Parliament. But something now that it's all about politics of this. Okay. Titus, I've got another question from Daba, and he asked that was Professor there when during the nomination times, and if he was not there, why was he not there?
Right. Okay. I give to Ostalos. I hope he noted those ones. Then we go to Clint, please. Clint. Right. Clint, we don't have much time to think. So I think Honorable Ostalos, please, if you can go ahead and answer those ones.
Thank you very much. I think that there was a question from Tandazani about my brother Tandazani. Very important questions about the allegations. I think that is all there for people to see. There were reports from the Treasury. I told you that the remit of resources was hosted by the Treasury. We received reports. I can give you, I've got more than 10 communiques about the reports that we're receiving, that we had captured to say what is the Treasury doing, what are the issues. Remember that Treasury is not just about expenditure, but it's also about what we were proposing, what we thought was important to the organizations, and so forth, and how they were conducting their processes. So reports were there. We received from them from time to time. And then this accusation, I mean, I don't know what motivates, I didn't hear that part. What would motivate a labeling of a president, particularly President Chamisa, on the bank accounts? Look, President Chamisa was not a signatory to bank accounts of the organization, was not a signatory, even when we were still in the MDC Alliance. He has never been a signatory in all those bank accounts. Usually the signatories, I think the chief signatory is the treasurer, and then some technical people. I think that has been the tradition, and I know that it existed. So no, we can't rewrite that history. All players, everyone knows. When we were in the Youth Assembly, we used to make requests to the treasury. They've got their employees. I don't know why people have got this thing of thinking that President James will do all these things. Will the man be alive to this in this very day? The guy would have been dead. All these responsibilities, they are acquitting to him. He would be dead now. He would have, been in money, doing rally. Do you know how much it costs? I mean, some of these people think it's because they've not done rallies. We traveled covering the presidential campaign of President Chamisa. We moved in one instance. We addressed a rally. In fact, we addressed a funeral in Glenview at 8 a.m. with our comrade president from Pudemo in Swaziland. We addressed a funeral of a comrade of ours who was killed in Glenview. From that funeral, we drove straight to a meeting in Mashonaland West. We addressed the first rally at around 12. And remember, in all these rallies, President Chamisa, unlike others who would speak, members of parliament and others, President Chamisa will have to speak in all these processes, first in the funeral, and again in the first rally. And then we left there, we went to Turkey, I think, where Honorable Mutsa comes from. We addressed the rally in Honorable Mutsa's constituency, the PRA MP, but there was a guy who was contesting in the proportional representation in the first past the post seat. President Chamisa addressed the rally there. From that rally, we drove for more than 80 kilometers on Dusty Road to go and address a rally, a fourth rally in fourth program in Norton, where Honorable Richard Tswangrai was a candidate. We arrived in Norton at almost around 9 p.m. Two things struck me more forcefully when we went to Norton. Number one was that citizens were able to eagerly wait, the patience. Look at the pain that citizens went to. They just wanted to hear the message from President Chamisa. Norton was a hotly contested seat where the citizens had deployed Honorable Richard Tswangrai contesting against Themba Mliswa, who had been very active in parliament and very active in the constituents. And it was important, we felt, for President Chamisa, who was tired. it was very important for him to travel to Norton. Against the advice, one of the security people who were saying it's now in the dark, President Chamisa can't address if someone pulls a gun in the public, what is going to happen? But President Chamisa said, look, I fidelity to my history with President Tsvangirai, and I should do this service to ensure that Richard Tsvangirai is supported in Norton, addressed there. And remember that there were people who, some like it happens, they try to undermine these young people that were being deployed and so forth. We addressed there at around 8 p.m. In Norton. Citizens waited there, patiently listened to the messages of change. President Chamisa spoke, Honorable Richard Tsvangirai spoke, and so forth. And President Chamisa just said, I have to be there. And we arrived in Harare at around 10 p.m. after, that midnight rally. So you ought to understand, this is the burden that was in the shoulders of the man. To give him the burden about what's happening in the treasury and what's happening in the organizing. There were people in charge of that. Go and talk to former Mayor Ian Makon. He will tell you, we saw them making decisions and running the elections, Peru. But of course, you do it as a collective, and the president ought to put his thought on different decisions. But in communications department, as an example, we draft a statement approved by Honorable Fazai, I read this out. I don't remember where we passed a statement unless it is of international significance where the president as an office ought to contribute. But we made statements. We are literally making decisions in the department. Ask President Chamisa how much money was given to candidates or another person or workers. He doesn't know because it's a remit which was headed by someone else. But people want to be disingenuous for whatever reasons to try and put this picture. Last question from my brother Titus. Was Prof there? I mean, the answer is an emphatic no. He was not there, but the reasons are known to him, and I wouldn't want to take shoes that are not mine to speak on his behalf. But of the matter that we were deployed. I was campaigning in Lupane, and I'm happy because when I was deployed by the party in Lupane, I was put on Gwazo program. We're able as a team in Lupane to deliver both the Lupane East and Lupane West. We won it. We deployed our members in parliament, and we were measured as leaders in terms of our performance where we were deployed. Honorable Prof. Ncube was deployed in Caesar. Honorable Lynette Karen was deployed somewhere in Manicaland, and Honorable Wende, I think in Czechwood and so forth. And all of us went to the Caesar National Assembly to report about what we're doing. And Prof. Ncube was no longer attending those meetings and no longer going to campaign. I think he had one or two rallies that he attended, but I think that citizens spoke to him and heard the reasons why he had taken that pathway. But the answer in black and white is that no, he did not campaign. And I think that he gave some of the reasons, but that is protected, I think, in the office of the president in terms of the communication that happens between the two. But I know that most political elites would not do work but want to participate, particularly when it's now issues of candidates, this and that, and so forth. I find it disingenuous and I find it counter-revolutionary, but that's my own personal opinion. So it might not hold water in a collective organization. Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. Can I have ZDV, Padare, and Amon? Let's go in that order, please.
Thank you, sir. Were you finishing something?
No, I think your questions.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much, Ango Jet and my brother Titus for hosting this space. And hello, Honorable. It's always a pleasure to hear you clarify matters. It's very refreshing. You forgive me. I think Shona ask questions in English. But my question really pertains to the role of Zimbabwean citizens. Because every day we see elitist pacts, we see abuse of our state institutions like the police, like what happened with Senator Timber being arrested in his own private residence and so forth. So my question really pertains to, I know you're going to address the plan for the alternative. What is the role of the citizens today? What should we be doing? We can't stay in the past, but we want to participate as ordinary Zimbabwean citizens.
what should be our role? What should we be doing today? Thank you.
Right, let's go to the next one. Kadari, please take the mic.
Yeah, Mr. Ostalos, just to remind you
That's
of
a
what
staunch supporter of ZANU-PF,
your leader
yeah.
said, David quoted. I've posted something in regards to the finances that he totally denied the point that
Always
you raised
accusing
here.
Chamisa
But
stealing
I'm
the
going to treat
money.
you to my question. I'm going to treat you like a revolutionary because you said you are a revolutionary. I hear theological, a lot of theory about revolutionary warfare. You said you attribute everything that happened to your party to ZANU-PF. You attribute your fall and the fall of Chamisa to the excellency of execution by ZANU-PF. I'm speaking to you as someone who thinks he's a revolutionary, understands the thinking of why I'm bringing this to you. So in warfare, we say someone who acknowledges the winner in the battle of those that beaten. And actually, you were beaten by ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF went on and actually infiltrated your party, like you say, and actually won the warfare. ZANU-PF actually then went and won the total of the election according to your position, and ZANU-PF is still beating you. What do you think is your game plan when you bring this to a revolutionary thought in warfare? Because the battle that you bring forward, that you won so many seats, you did all this, but Tshabangu destroyed you because he had ZANU-PF hand. What is Chamisa's way in terms of warfare? Many thanks.
Right, okay.
Let's not forget to like the live. So we push algorithm. This getting hotter and hotter as we're getting closer to the
My brother Emon is there.
So guys, stick around. We're gonna have quite a number of meetings there. It's gonna be ZANU-PF has to go. We have to clear this mess out. Honestly, we don't have time. We've wasted enough time.
Lillian, can you come through?
Thanks, Uncle Jet. My question to Gift is: you just mentioned that you are you just mentioned that you are democratic revolutionaries. We understand democracy depends on changing leaders, right? So, are you in the future going to have term limits, or Chamisa is going to represent the party to infinity? Seeing he has already participated in 2 elections, and Changirai before him since 2000 to his death. Thank you.
Yeah, Chamisa is your problem.
Thank you, Honorable. Take the mic.
Yeah. Yeah, Chikara Chesa.
Do I have to respond?
Yes.
No, thank you very much. ZTV, I mean, I'm reminded, when I saw a request, ZTV speaking, I'm reminded of the long spaces that they used to host, fundraising. Thank you very much for those efforts, change champions to the democratic struggle. And I'm happy that you spoke in Shona, because many people in the body politic wanted to say that you were funded by some ghostwise people, and to show that you are Zimbabwean and you guys have been at the center of helping our struggle is important. Thank you very much, and the Citizens Action for Change team for the splendid work that they did. People, forget to always say thank you. Thank you very much for that. There was a question, I think I'm going to touch that when I conclude, around the role of the ordinary people in Zimbabweans in diaspora in particular, around the way forward. So I'm going to speak, but I'm cognizant of that this is a public forum, so I would not put so much, but I'll do what is necessary. Look, my brother, don't undermine the little probity that is accuted to the Chitepo School of Ideology, because it makes us question its role. Because when you don't understand the value of theory, Charamba and Chris Mchonga make some of us understand, though we know it's not. That is not a platform for a platform for thought and theories. ZANU is ideologically confused now. We all know Mtul is on the far right with these neoliberal policies, and Mtswangwa is articulating a Kusaru Jinji left politics. So it's a concoction. It's one of the most confused liberation organizations post-1980, occupied by people ideologically vacuous and empty and ahistoric and lack the necessary intellectual depth. And I think that my genuine view is that it has also been affected by that. Post-2018, you guys neglected the role of intellectuals. Your organization is now being run by Makurukoza. You've put them there at the center of running organizations. You need to go back to the role of public intellectuals. Mugabe used to go to University of Zimbabwe. The man who had so many faults was a fascist, was a dictator, he stayed in power without the mandate of the people. But he understood as a former teacher the role of public intellectuals in forming class projects. But you guys have relegated that role. Your thing is dominated. That's why Barakash becomes a dominant conversation in a party that is saying is governing. It's an indictment on the liberation struggle and the intellectuals that have been at the center of the liberation projects in Zimbabwe. Secondly, you say we must accept that Zanu won a war. I didn't know that we're at war. We are peaceful people. Our approach is being democratic revolutionaries doesn't mean you're at war. We are not at war, so we must not apply rules of a war. We are not at war. Zimbabwe is a peaceful country. That's why in Parliament we're debating about allocations of budget to key ministries. That's why you put more money in green bombers instead of putting money in hospitals.
Exactly.
The war mindset.
Foolish.
We left the war in 1980. We are now in an agenda to transform Zimbabwe's lives economically. Let's leave this thing. You must understand, you guys in ZANU-PF, that your people can't be heroes in two struggles. It will never happen. Mandela was the hero of the liberation struggle in South Africa. He could not be. That's why he handed over power to Thabo Mbeki, because he could not be a hero of the post liberation struggle, because a struggle is in two phases. Going with the progression of society, you start with political independence. That's why the CCC directly associated with the liberation struggle. But we understood that, look, it cannot be possible, my brother, you know it. You cannot have these people that were in the liberation struggle leading the nanotechnology struggle in artificial intelligence. They don't understand it. It doesn't matter. One can't be a hero in two struggles. You have to know when to leave the dance floor. Lastly, you question about our application of theory. But if Chitepo School of Ideology is effective, it ought to teach you guys that there is no true social revolution without a revolutionary theory. Everything starts in the bottom. So you ought to understand, theoretically, you ought to understand things. We can't just go into government with slogans. We ought to understand where we want to fix things. When we talk about the first 100 days of a Chamisa government, it is theoretically what we have to do, but it is informed by figures, by facts, by historical understanding. We ought to know how many people are food insecure, how many hospitals will a Chamisa government ought to build, what are the priority policies. That's why we were talking about a healthcare system, because our people are dying because we have abandoned Zimbabweans. Most of you are being called to airports to go and celebrate a criminal. From there, you are going in a pothole-infested road. You are going into a society without, when you have an accident, it doesn't care whether you are ZANU, you are Rakash, you are CCC, you are Mazis. You just have to live with the reality that there are no medicine in the hospitals, that our healthcare system has collapsed. So you ought to understand, when we raise these things, we are not raising them just as members of political party. We are raising them as patriotic Zimbabweans, because we've seen people losing life. It doesn't choose which political party you belong to. The political elites will always get healthcare treatment out of the country, but what happens to the rest of us who don't have privilege? So we ought to genuinely look at the crisis that our Zimbabwean people are facing, and it has to start with a theoretical understanding of the problems. So you can't have a solution when you don't understand it at the level of a theory. Even going into war using your standards, you don't just lift an AK, you start in a boardroom, you sit, you map, where are we targeting the enemy, what are the tools, what is the arsenal that we are deploying, what is the objective of this mission. You see, that's theory. So you can't go into government when you don't understand how much Zimbabwe owes to the Bretton Woods Institution, to the Paris Club of Lenders, to the African Development Bank. How much debt do we owe domestically? What happened? We must audit it. So all that is theory, but to show the necessary understanding of the crisis so that you produce and come up with solutions. We don't want to go into government and start looking into people and giving them a rhetoric. We ought to go and change the lives of ordinary people, like we did when we became part and parcel of the government of national unity. We went there to answer the concrete issues that are affecting our people, and I hope you understand at that level. But consciousness is important. Lillian asked about term limit. That is the conversation about what is the character content of the new organization. My personal opinion, I'll relegate my personal opinion because I told you I come from the left and I have certain views, but I don't have to put them because there has to be a collective process that will build the credible alternative and what character it has to take. The Zimbabwean constitution is very clear in terms of how long one can occupy an office, and political organization ought to understand the impact of the national constitution into their own unique political organizations. And it's definitely a conversation that the organization ought to make and made public. But what I can't do is to say the organization will have to be like this. I can't define this character because I'm not the organization. The organization will be constructed by the people and those that are charged with that mandate. And our job is going to be, if we are in the remit of communication, I doubt we'll be in the communications department, but if we are there, we're going to communicate to the citizens what character that organization will be like. But you don't have to create, I don't have to create it in my own mind. Lest they come and accuse me now of being an imaging detector. It's not my thing. It's not my responsibility. It is the responsibility of the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Ostalos. Appreciate you. So the next three coming in, I think there was a question earlier on, Honorable Ostalos from Max. I think he touched on the people that have remained in the parliament. Who are they serving? You know, is it the will of the people? And I think he just wanted your opinion on that. But it will go to Sonjabulo, Priska, then Cooksman.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you, and good evening to everyone. I'm hoping everyone is okay. And good evening to our guest, Fogasizi. Minombuzo mfowethu usimple. Lina litshela ubona ijezi siqhaqheko. Like lazama yini ukuyithunga? Ngoba thina masibhekile where we are standing from. We get discouraged by the divisions that we begin to see because we are left wondering which direction should we take, because we had faith on all of you as a collective, not as individuals. So when you came together, we had faith in that as a collective, but also I'll end by saying, have you tried to bring everyone together under one jacket in spite of the events of Tshabangu and everything else? That's my question. Thank you.
No, definitely not.
Thanks, Jabolo. Priska is dropped. Okay, Cooksman, please go ahead.
Hello. Commentators. Am I audible?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. Thank you very much, my brother Gift, for taking questions. My question is, given the ruling party's history of denying demonstration permits and suppressing dissent, how does the opposition plan to creatively and peacefully protest against corruption, human rights abuses, and election theft? And what strategies will you employ to mobilize citizens and amplify your message despite these obstacles? Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Ms. Tate, please shoot your question. Ms. Tate.
Hi, thank you so much. So my question is very simple. Based on the history and understanding of Matabeleland and the issues there, and you also coming out of Blawayo, I think it's important that we avoid repeating the same thing over and over again. So in your moments of self-reflection and introspection, what would you say you have learned over the past couple of years, and what would you do differently as a leader? I'm asking for your honest opinion about yourself and your shortcomings that you have noticed that you need to personally improve on so that we can be able to always put the best foot forward. What can you say are the things that you have noticed, that there are errors that you made in terms of leadership in Matabeleland, what you could have done differently to bring people together, to bring everyone onto the table and we chase after the same thing? That's my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Tate, for that. Honorable Ostalos, do you want to take those, please?
Thank you very much. Let me ask my brother Njabulo. Thank you very much mfowethu. I think utsho kuhle bafo. Ukubambana ngikhumbula ukuthi wena benkobulawayo ngempela viki sixoxisana with some of the respected people in the clergy ngendaba yokumanyana. There's no replacement. That conversation is echoed everywhere. And I think that even into zonke zathi zenzakala, sasimeka sure ukuthi siyazama ngayonke indlela. Like I tried to explain, when Douglas Monzora issue came in, what stopped us as the youth from removing Douglas Monzora from the party headquarters and from the party was unity. That you guys can't break away, you can't contribute to the breakdown of the organization and the culture of unity. We ought to close rank and so forth. And we took stock after that and evaluated how you have to balance between keeping the forces united and also dealing with mores and people that would have strayed away from the ideological and the collective trust that is mandated to us by the people. And I think that the best way, in my recommendation to the organization and the future of this country, is that it is important to subject all key decisions to the opinion of the people, because it is better to be wrong with the opinion of the people than to be wrong with the opinion of the elites. So it's always important when such things emerge, let them be subjected to the opinion of the people, so that at the end of the day, it does not become a Chamisa issue or a certain leaders issue, because it is an issue that is emerging from the people, but because there are those who might have to carry the burden of the decision, then it might be tempted to be with them. Someone asked me about President Chamisa. I define President Chamisa. I think President Chamisa, to me, contrary to what the naysaying narrative has been about, he is to us as young people is one person who has offered a platform. I can assure you that if you read the report about the deployment policy of the party, which he immensely contributed his opinion to, for me, plays a role because he invested in making sure that the organization adopts an agenda that protects and uplifts the young people. The other question, and I think that we have to pay the price at the end of the day for unity. We have to make sure that, the principled position is always that where possible, by all means necessary, keep all the democratic forces united together. But things happen and people take different pathways. I don't know whether, I think that those were the last questions, because the Cooksman question and other question from my sister seems to be speaking to the way forward. So I'm not so sure, Uncle Jed, should I quickly make my conclusions, or there might be a burning question that needs me to answer before I go to the way forward? Because Cooksman question and my sister's question directly speaking to
right. Can you allow us, these three that I had already added, let them be the last question, and then when you answer those, you then go into the way forward. So can I have Dr. Moses, both TK and Emmanuel to come through in that order, please? Just one question, and then we'll move on.
Thank you, Ango. Thank you, Comrade Ostalos. My question is just one question, a quick one. From my observations, I think one of the greatest challenges in the democratic movement now is that there are people who are opposition at heart. I'm not talking about those who masquerade as opposition and the infiltrators. I'm talking about those who are opposition at heart. But they may have differences in opinion. And when they have those differences, they begin to fight against each other, they begin to label each other, but they are actually fighting for the same cause. And for me, it's a huge threat to the democratic movement. What should be done in order to ensure that, those who are in the opposition, who may differ in terms of their views, can still have different views, but still work together for to achieve a common agenda. Thank you, Uncle Jeddah. Thank you, Comrade Ostalos.
Right. Let's go to Boss TK.
Thank you, Uncle Chad. Thank you, Titus. I also want to thank Comrade Ostalos. He has really grown to be a full-blown politician. My question to the comrade is, I come from a security background. I have to introduce myself as such. I've realized that from all the conversations that goes in opposition politics, it's all to do with infiltration. If you talk of 2014, it was the infiltration this. We go to the MDC Green, what, going back, it's all like infiltration. Up to this day, we are still talking of the party being infiltrated time and again. So my question is, going forward, as a movement, what are the plans? Do you have anything that you have on the shelf in regards to your security and intelligence department? And do you also consider or know that not everybody in the security sector is against the opposition? Almost everybody also wants the change. So when we talk of civic organizations, intellectuals, chiefs, and all those people, are we also having an effort? Are we doing enough to also lure all those retired security personnel to come into the movement and work with the people? Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Emmanuel, please come through.
Thank you very much, Angoje. My greetings, my good brother Ostalos. Just two quick questions. Number one,
My bad, guys. I don't know what happened. I apologize. I guess I think they dropped. So what we're gonna do right now is that I'm going to record the last part of this meeting, which is definitely the way forward. Because tomorrow morning, I told you I'm coming back here discussing about the issue of the protests that are coming up, which is they're saying they're going to consider shutdown on the 16th of August, and then protest the 17th, 18th, no, 15th of August should be shut down. Then 16th, 17th, and 18th will be actually protests that are going down across Zimbabwe, during the time of the SADC summit. So I'm gonna come tomorrow morning with all the details. They've emailed me everything, and I will be touching on that. And then also to share the other part of his submissions in terms of the conclusion and where to from here. And I know all Zimbabweans are really pumped. We can't wait to be out of this nonsense of ZANU-PF. And I'm sorry to say this, the judges have got brand new cars who can't even answer questions while they're being interviewed. What a shame, what an embarrassment. We can't keep on supporting the level of wickedness that is being done by these uncles So I really want you guys to stick around. There's going to be quite a number of meetings that are coming up, and I will always going to make sure that I include you in all those conversations. So guys, sleep tight. It has been really a great time. I enjoyed it, and I can't wait to actually meet you tomorrow morning. So please relax. We are not afraid. We are standing firm for the principle. It's the right thing or nothing. This generation will not take lies any longer. We can't take abuse any longer. We are standing firm and said we deserve to live a normal life. I also still want you guys to pray for you for Anna Timber. Tomorrow they will be back in court, and we believe that we're going to be having their bail. A bail tomorrow. They have to be out of that dirty place. So please, guys, pray for each other, believe in each other, spread the fire of love, nothing else but love, always. I bless you and I bless Zimbabwe. I'll see you tomorrow, and bye for now.